Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Fizan Ali Software Wala, level 1 student at Rehan School, Islamabad campus. Today we are honored to welcome Dave Rosser, a world champion of public speaking, speaker, trainer, facilitator, and global travel. So let's start. First of all, hello, how are you, sir?
I am very fine and very happy to be here.
Thank you. So first of all, sir, could you please introduce yourself and tell us about your incredible journey?
Well, I have always wanted to be a public speaker. My Both my mother and father were people who used public speaking in their work and other areas. And also I grew up during a time where I saw people who made amazing speeches that were quoted. I'm old enough to remember President John F. Kennedy when he spoke. Now I don't remember his inaugural address, but I remember how people talked about it. I heard Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. I heard dozens of other people in various situations who were very good public speakers, and I knew it was a skill that I would like to learn. So when I was in high school, I got involved with the public speaking and debate team and did the same when I went to the Air Force Academy. I was on the speech and debate team there. Then when I graduated, I decided I needed to do this more, so I started in Toastmasters. It remains an activity that I do today. I'm still in Toastmasters. I still do public speaking. I do a little professional speaking as well, but I really appreciate the art of public speaking. It's it's hard to
Okay,
explain.
that's
Go
really
ahead.
great journey. I really like your journey. So what inspired you to become a speaker and storyteller?
It's it's the effect that you have on an audience when you tell a great story. It's the ability to connect with someone, even though you're speaking from a stage, they are moved by it. I think the biggest thrill I have is when someone said, "I heard your speech and it meant a lot to me." And that is a very powerful enticement to be a public speaker.
Okay, that's really great. So my next question, looking back at your childhood in California, what experience shaped your personality?
Oh, a lot of them. My family, of course, is the first thing that influenced my personality. My closest friend when I was a real small child was my big brother. So uh, he was 2 years older than me, and I wanted to be with him all the time and hang out with him and have fun and play with him. And sometimes he just wanted to be with his friends and not with his little brother. Um, but still, he's a big part of my life, my family, my friends, my teachers. I have had some very wonderful teachers as a child growing up. They were very, very committed to their students. Now, I have had one or two teachers who weren't as good as others, but the other ones were fantastic.
Okay, that's really interesting one. So who has been the biggest influence in your life?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. I've had so many people who were influenced both personally and people who I found important or influential who I really didn't know. I just read about them or saw them on television or something of that nature. I will tell you this, the first person that I idolized as a very small child was the president of the United States at the time, John F. Kennedy. I just, again, thought he was just the greatest person in the world, maybe because he was the first president I actually paid attention to as a child. And when he died, it was devastating to me. I was very upset for days. But after that, it would be Martin Luther King. I was impressed with, Nelson Mandela. Um, and then, of course, people I knew. I had teachers who were great. My best friends, not my brother, but one of my best friends' father was the person who taught me how to play chess. He was also a psychologist, and he was just a very interesting and very impressive adult.
Okay, that's really great. So, what motivated you to travel and experience different cultures?
I've always been interested by them. I come from a military family, and I would hear stories of traveling in different parts of the world, and I always wanted to do that. And I had a lot of friends, I mean, who came to America, were from other countries, and it just inspired me to want to travel. It's the joy of seeing a whole new culture, a whole new community, maybe learning a few words of the language, eating the different food, listening to the music. I just love all of that.
Okay, that's really great. So, what is the biggest lesson you have learned from traveling?
The biggest lesson I've learned is that we are all pretty much the same. I mean, there are differences, different cultures, different religions, different languages, but it all comes down to people want to live a good life. They want their children to be healthy. The children want their parents to be safe and provide care for them. We want to learn. We have schools all over the world. And I think that's the important lesson, that we are all pretty much the same. And it would be nice if we lived in a world where that was the basis of understanding, that you and I are not that much different. Maybe we can come to an agreement.
Yes, that's really great. So, which country has had the greatest impact on you and why?
Well, right now I have to say the Philippines because I'm living in the Philippines and my wife is from the Philippines. So that's the biggest effect it's had on me, because, again, this is where people I love come from and live. But I've lived in two countries that stand out to me: Saudi Arabia and Iceland. And Saudi Arabia, on one hand, was hot desert, and Iceland, which is kind of cooler and and different. Their cultures were both of them were so different from America. I found them very fascinating. And I have friends in Iceland and in Saudi Arabia. So I think those are the two countries that had the biggest impact on me.
Okay, that's really great. So, you want you have a choice to visit and countries. So, which country do you visit?
Which country do I what? I'm sorry, could you say it again?
I said that you have a choice to visit any other country. So, which country do you visit?
Oh, which country do I want to visit next? Well, I'd like to
Yes,
visit Pakistan, that's for sure, and Australia, Pakistan, Australia, New Zealand, and I want to go to South America, to Argentina and Chile. So those are next on my list.
okay. So, what's your goal now?
My goal now is to become uh, someone who helps people learn to understand and use artificial intelligence. I've been improving my knowledge of AI and use it very extensively. And I've noticed that companies have a difficult time right now. They know they need it, but they don't always know how to bring it in. And I want to help them to bring artificial intelligence into their company.
That's really great. You're also learning artificial intelligence skills. So, what advice would you give to people who want to explore the world?
Well, first of all, the first thing to remember, I think about artificial intelligence when it comes to whatever you're doing is that it's not always right. So you have to make your prompts and your questions clear enough and also have to check their results. And the second thing is do not depend on artificial intelligence for everything. I use it quite a bit, but what's most important is that people develop their own creativity, that they develop their own skills, and then use artificial intelligence to help them. One of the things I want to advocate in companies is that what you want are people who can use artificial intelligence to help your company grow. You don't want AI to replace all your people because they're still machine learning is still a machine learning how to be human. It's not a human who can react, who has instincts, who can be a little more creative than AI.
Okay. So, what is the biggest lesson you have learned from traveling?
Well, in addition to that, we are all pretty much the same. The next lesson is that the journey is very interesting as much as the destination is interesting. Sometimes when you travel, weather will delay a plane or delay a train or a bus ride or whatever you're using to travel, and that can be an opportunity to meet people and to enjoy the experience.
Okay. So, my next question from you: which country has had the greatest impact on you and why?
Um, my home country, the United States, I think has the biggest impact overall because I grew up there and it's a very diverse country. It's you can go to the snow in Alaska, you can go to the warm waters of Florida, you can go to small towns, big cities, to big forests. There's a lot to the United States that's what I think growing up there that I really appreciate. But again, as I said, right now the more interesting country that I visited is the Philippines because I'm living there here now.
Yes, I have an idea that you choose Philippines, but you choose United States. Okay. So, what cultural experience will you never forget?
Which cultural experience have I what?
I said that. What cultural experience will you never forget?
Oh, I think what I'd like to do now here in the Philippines is spend more time going to uh, community events and that sort of thing. I've had some of that, but because I traveled back to the States and a lot I've missed out on a lot. So hopefully this year I'll be able to experience more of those sorts of things.
Okay. So, what advice would you give to people who want to explore the world?
Okay, two things. One, go, do it. Don't put it off for when you get older or whatever. Whenever you're able to travel, travel. That's something that I got from my grandmother. She said she was a teacher, and her first year of school, the principal retired from teaching, and the principal said, well, now I can go travel. However, she retired late in life and she only lived one more year. So that inspired my grandmother, said, I'm going to travel when I can. So travel whenever you can. And the second thing is be flexible. If you travel, it's going to be different from your home. The food will be different, the way people speak will be different, the music will be different, and don't try to make it like where you were from, but accept it and take it all in. I've been on airplanes where people were coming back from a country and they just complained it wasn't like their home country or it wasn't like America. I'm thinking, well, why'd you go? Stay home. The point is to go to another country, eat different food, meet different people, hear different music. That's why you travel.
That's really great. So you have jumped out of airplanes. What inspired you to take the leap?
Ha! Um, first of all, it would be a lot of fun, I thought, and it was. It it's a great experience. Now, leading up to that, you have to think, make sure that you're doing everything right so that your parachute opens and everything happens okay. But once you understand that, then it's just, again, a wonderful experience. You see the world totally differently. You see it like a bird sees it. You know, you look down and there's nothing below you and the world is all around.
Okay. So my next question: how did you overcome fear before skydiving?
Um, well, I have a story. I'm one person who can honestly say my first jump, I had no fear. And the reason was because I stayed up late the night before. And I was sleepy. And so I got on the airplane and I fell asleep and people woke me up. They said, okay, it's time to go. I said, oh, okay. I was doing it in my sleep. And I jumped out and I said, now something's supposed to happen. And boom, the parachute opened. And it, I was too tired to be afraid. And then it was wonderful. And so after that first jump, the next jump was easy. Don't do that. I'm not recommending that you take, you stay up all night and you get sleepy but I'm saying uh, the first jump is usually the hardest one. Once you get over that, it's fine. But for me, I did it in my sleep. And then the parachute opened. So from then on, it was just fun. It was just very interesting.
Okay. So what was it like climbing the pyramid in Egypt?
And Egypt. Yeah, Egypt, of course, is just so fascinating. It's a wonderful place. You can go places and see things that are thousands of years old, like the pyramids. And you're not supposed to climb the pyramids, but it's one of those things I couldn't resist to say that I not only saw, I touched, I climbed up on something that was there for thousands of years. How many people who had done the same thing, maybe when they were building it, or maybe a pharaoh had come and touched right where I had touched. It was a great experience for me.
Okay, so what you learned from Egypt historical things?
From historical things, you learn a lot. Because if you're able to study the history around whatever it is, the pyramids or maybe a capital city or whatever, and then see it, you learn about how the people must have lived, or you have questions, more questions than answers, like the pyramids. I don't know how they built. I mean, in those ancient times, how did they do that? And that's the thing that I learned. The questions are as important as the answers. Because in that question, how did they build the pyramids, is also the understanding that we human beings are capable of so much. So if they can build a pyramid thousands and thousands of years ago, what can we do today? Think about it.
That's really great. So swimming in five of the seven seas is remarkable. And which experience stands out the most?
Well, I really enjoy swimming. I like sailing. I like the water a lot. I was in Turkey and was swimming in the Mediterranean and was having a good time swimming out in the Mediterranean and realized I was alone, and two, I couldn't see the land. I was so far out, I couldn't see the beach. And I said to myself, I need to get back to where I could see the beach because I could, if it had been cloudy or something, I could get disoriented and lost. And who knows what would have happened to me. So I just slowly and calmly swam back to where I thought the beach was and eventually saw it, and I felt a lot better. It was a control to understand, control myself, not to panic, think about what's going on, and just get back to where you can see the beach, and you'll always keep that so you won't get lost.
Great. So, which adventure taught you the biggest life lesson?
Good question. Um, all right, here's a fun story. When I was in pilot training, I had a friend who convinced me to drive him to this party, and then because he wasn't going to drive after we going to the party, and then I could drive him back. And I said, I'm really busy, and he said, but it'd be a lot of fun. So I said, okay, and I went. We stayed at the party too long. It was very late and it was far out. By the time I got back, I had only enough time to shower, put on my uniform, and go down to the squadron. I was tired. And my plan was I was a student pilot. So, I couldn't tell people, well, I went out partying last night. So I had to act like everything was all right. And I wasn't going to fly. I wasn't on the schedule. So I figured, after we do the morning uh, activities, then we're free. I would go off someplace and sleep. That was my plan. There's a lot of my weird stories start with didn't get a lot of sleep. Well, this was the one. So I wasn't supposed to fly, but somebody who was supposed to fly got sick. So they said, "Oh, who needs a solo flight?" And this was solo, all by myself. And they said, "Dave Ross, you go. You're going to fly solo today." And I knew I was going to die because I didn't have enough sleep. I figured I'd get in the plane, fall asleep, and the plane would crash. So before I took off, I checked every inch of that airplane. I pre-flighted everything on it, the tires to everything, the canopy, the wing. I checked to make sure everything was right. I checked everything. I took off and went and flew, and you're supposed to fly out in an area and then do different things. I had the most fun I have ever had before or since in an airplane. It was wonderful. I flew upside down. I flew loops and clover leaps, barrel rolls. I had the best time ever. And then when I came back, I landed the plane so smoothly, I couldn't tell the difference of when I was in the air or when I was on the ground. But I could tell, I could feel it, kept the nose up, and then the nose came down. It was a perfect flight. I just had so much fun. And then after you have to do paperwork after you fly. So I did the paperwork for the plane and I told the crew chief the plane was good. And I walked away and I said, wait a second, I thought I was going to die this flight. I said, nope. So I learned two things. One thing is, do not give control of your life to your fears. You know, I figured I better fly because I was supposed to and I didn't want to get in trouble, which was kind of silly. So the first thing is don't let your fears hold you back. But the second thing, don't be stupid like I was. Don't stay out late when you might fly or whatever. Don't let your friends talk you into things that shouldn't be doing. And both of those lessons are very important. But this first one, don't let your fears rule your life, extremely important. Extremely important.
Okay, that's really great. So, did you believe adventure help people growing personally?
Yes, I think small or large adventures are important. And of course, you want issues of safety, but a lot of times adventures, if you're rock climbing or or again, swimming or stuff. It's problem solving. What's wrong? I'm a little lost. I need help. I need to be careful so I don't hurt myself. You problem solve. And when you have adventures, the problems can be a little more controllable. They're not quite as bad. But what it prepares you for is if something really happens, you can you have some familiarity with dealing with solving problems. And those things can happen. You could be caught in an earthquake. You could find yourself in a flood. You could all kinds of things can happen. And the way to solve a problem is basically the same as if you're, like I said, climbing a mountain or swimming out in the ocean. Okay, what's the problem? Assess what's going on. What are my possible solutions? What have I not thought of? And then take action. Take action. Assess every step of the way. Is this successful? Because sometimes you can go on the wrong track and you need to get back on the right track. So assess that. And so that's why adventures are fun, whether it's just camping out or challenging yourself to do a run. It allows you to solve problems, to test your ability, and to grow.
Okay. So my next question from you is that have you ever faced danger during your travels?
Danger? Um, well, again, like when I was swimming too far out, that was a little bit dangerous. Uh, I've been in situations where I thought, I got separated from a group of people I was with, and I didn't speak the language, and I was lost. That was kind of it could have been dangerous. If the wrong people had have taken advantage of the fact that I was alone and confused. A lot of times, though, when you have a difficult situation, you'll find that people will help you, even if they don't, they can't communicate with you. I've been in places where they didn't speak English, I didn't speak the language they spoke, but we figured things out. We'd make sign language, we draw pictures. Oh yes, yes, and we can we can get things done. Um, I was in Turkey once, and I was getting on a bus. A friend of mine and I were getting on a bus, and just as I got in, I heard there was commotion behind me. And I said, I wonder what that is. And the police officer had grabbed the man and all of this. And so I noticed that everybody was looking at us. And I guess we were the only, foreigners on the bus. So I thought that's why they were looking at us. And this woman said in very good English, she said, you have to be careful around here. I said, oh, okay. She said, there are pickpockets in this part of town. Oh, okay. And again, she's looking at me. I'm not picking it up. Said, she said, he was trying to pick your pocket, talking to me. And I go, oh, and everybody on the bus started laughing because they knew I finally got it. The policeman stopped somebody who was trying to rob me. But I didn't know.
Okay, so you have any advice to my audience at interview last?
Yes, my advice, I think probably your audience, mostly young people, is first of all, you should be very happy that you're in a school that you are in that encourages you to do things like podcasts, to deal with AI. It's very wonderful. Be thankful for that and tell your teachers thank you every once in a while. Because that's the thing I really wish I had done. The next thing is when you get a chance, have safe adventures. Do some traveling, have some fun, and enjoy your life.
Thank you. That's really good and interesting advice. So this was our today's interview. I hope you like it. I'm new guest next day, next topic. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.
Okay?